Okay, hello. Yeah, as I said, my name's Andrew Taylor, and I'm an academic services librarian at Liverpool Hope. Previously been known as a faculty librarian, a subject librarian, all the same job. They've just changed my title in the over a decade that I've been there. Previously, I actually worked at MMU, which was where I got my first experience of information literacy sessions. I actually remember one of my first ones was in this lecture theatre to a packed marketing students all looking seriously unhappy and have to listen to me. Hopefully we'll have some happier faces in the crowd today. As I said, I've been there over a decade now doing information literacy at Liverpool Hope, and basically it's kind of gone in, each year you might tweak your slides slightly. But the kind of things we're teaching it's been the same until kind of last year. We had this AI thing and everyone freaked out because we didn't really know what it was. A lot of, we feel, okay, libraries have to be at the forefront of this. We have to teach the students AI literacy, but do we know it ourselves? Do we know what AI literacy is ourselves? So there came a point, we put it into our information literacy framework, what we were going to do. We were going to teach AI literacy as part of it. That was a section, what is AI literacy? And then we just thought, right, we've got to do it, hence the pragmatic approach. Let's do something, let's learn what we can and kind of take it from there. So this is kind of where we're up to. So why do undergraduate students need AI literacy? So there's a lot of research out there that's kind of surveyed student needs. They've shown that it's now a core competency in education. Students want the clear guidelines on the use of AI. So it's not like we're going in there telling them something that they don't want. This has actually come from the students that they would like more guidance on AI literacy. And then obviously there's the workplace readiness element where they kind of have an expectation that they will have some AI training at university to prepare them to go into the workplace. Now, AI literacy. So I found this research paper that actually defined AI literacy. I can't even say literacy, which is a bit of a problem. But I found it quite a useful one. It's what I've used to understand what I'm actually teaching. So when we say we're teaching AI literacy, this is what it is. So I've taken it from this research paper, and it says it's a set of competencies that enables individuals to critically evaluate AI technologies, communicate and collaborate effectively with AI, and use AI as a tool online, at home, and in the workplace. And they identify 5 broad themes, which is what is AI, what can AI do, how does AI work, how should AI be used, and how do people perceive AI? And so together, those 5 themes, if you've got those covered, you're basically AI literate, is what I'd say. They also include 17 competencies, but I'm going to put those on the next slides for you to see. So the first theme, which is what is AI? So to be AI literate, you need to understand what AI is. So that includes recognizing AI, so distinguishing it from other technological tools, understanding the nature of intelligence, recognizing the interdisciplinarity of the use of AI, and then distinguishing between general and narrow AI. So general AI is the hypothetical state of sort of human level cognitive behavior of machines that we're not at yet. Whereas narrow AI is kind of the tools that we're using at the moment that can do a specific task very well, but don't have the same broad capabilities of human behavior. Okay, so students, when teaching students, they may have, you've got to be aware that they may have preconceptions about AI. So they think that maybe AI must have human level intelligence when that is not actually the case. AI is likely is likely to be obscured on some platforms because therefore making it difficult to recognize. And as a librarian, you'll often present to students from non-technical backgrounds, which makes it quite difficult. So we've got to, when we're explaining AI, we have to kind of put it in the context that they will understand. Okay, so I actually looked for some definitions of artificial intelligence, and there isn't kind of a consensus opinion of what it actually is. But NASA had a couple of definitions, and a nice simple one, which I thought was quite useful. And then they went into more detail, which you could use if you want. But I think the simple definition of artificial intelligence refers to computer systems that can perform complex tasks normally done by human reasoning, decision making, creating, etc. And for me, I think for most undergraduate students, that would be a sufficient definition of AI. Okay, so teaching suggestions. So these are just some things that I've uncovered in my research and that I'm actually using at the moment. So the first one is we could write a glossary to introduce non-technical students to AI vocabulary. So this is what we've done we use Moodle, our virtual learning environment, which has a glossary function in it. So we've got an AI terminology glossary, which is quite well used. And actually glossaries in general, so we've got them for also, we've got a library glossary, we've got an open research glossary, we've got a study skills glossary, and they're actually one of the most clicked parts of the virtual learning environment. So I think actually writing an AI glossary can be quite a useful thing to do. I've got philosophy students, for example, going back to kind of the different perspectives depending on their subject areas. Philosophy students may choose to consider AI in the context of the nature of the mind, intelligence, what it means to be human. So you could draw on that. Drama or education students may benefit from play-based activities. The Turing test, where students try to distinguish between AI and human outputs. So you could use that, for example, for English literature students, get them to distinguish between a piece of human written poetry and maybe something written by AI, just to get them thinking about it. STEM students perhaps would benefit from hypothesis testing. And then put it onto the students, I think, is make them think about the tool that they're using, what makes it AI. So even something as simple as Primo Research Assistant, get them to tell you why is this AI, to check their understanding. So yeah, there's just the example of the glossary that I talked about. So that's just how it looks in Moodle in our virtual learning environment. So you can see the kind of terms that they're not high level, they're kind of just the basic terminology, but it gives them something to look at and learn what things mean. So just going back to that, I think this is really useful because I think we've all started kind of banding around terminology that we weren't using kind of a year ago. So I mean, we all know what hallucination is now, but we've got to keep remembering that new students coming in, they may not understand what we're talking about. And I think that's probably been the case for libraries in general, because we do have some quite unique terminology that we use. Okay, so theme 2 of 5 is understanding what can AI do. So this is AI's strengths and weaknesses, and imagining a future of AI. So what could AI do in the future? So understanding what an AI tool can do will obviously help the students make more informed decisions about how they use an AI tool, but also about how much they trust the outputs that it gives them. So it's important that students recognize the strengths and the weaknesses of the various AI tools, and there are lots of weaknesses that we need to make them aware of. Now, this is a survey from the Digital Education Council of use cases for AI by students. And I think it's quite interesting that searching for information is the top use case in this survey. Obviously, we think of things like checking grammar, summarizing documents, but actually the information searching, it just shows kind of how important librarians are in ensuring that students are using AI correctly for that purpose, because a lot of them are doing it. Okay, so a few teaching suggestions again. So survey students about their current use of AI, so get their input, understand how they are currently using it and what they are using it for. Could ask the students to create what are called design fictions, so imagining the future and the effect that AI might have on the world. And then introduce students to the AI research tools that are available to them, and importantly, the strengths and weaknesses of each. So I've written a kind of a crib sheet of the library's AI research tools. So we've got like Primo Research Assistant, there's Statista Research AI, there's eBook Central Research Assistant. And we've got kind of the strengths of each one, what they are basically meant to do, but also the weaknesses, so things to watch out for. And then obviously we've got some general strengths and weaknesses of AI tools, such as hallucinations. So for example, we've got eBook Central Research Assistant, which can generate insights from within a book chapter. So that's obviously a strength. But many publishers have opted out, so it's not across all books when you use it. So it's important that students are aware of that when they're using it. Statista Research AI delivers concise written responses to user queries using data from market research. However, it only refers to what it considers to be the 10 most relevant sources, making it far from exhaustive. And as usual, it's kind of, there's no clear understanding about what it considers the most relevant. You're kind of putting that decision into the hands of AI. Primo Research Assistant, so that allows users to ask research queries using natural language and provides summaries and references, but it doesn't work with a lot of databases, and it's not possible to provide preparatory information. So something like ChatGPT, you might be able to prime it, you might be able to say, give it some preparatory information about what you are actually doing, and then have a back and two conversation. Primo Research Assistant, you wouldn't be able to do that. It's kind of one question and that's it. And then stuff like ChatGPT, they can answer research questions using sources from the internet. But again, it's not a scholarly source. It's a general source. It may not be accurate or reliable in specific academic fields. And of course, we've got the prone to hallucination. So it's making sure that students understand that when they are using the tool, they know exactly what it is good for, making sure they know it is the correct tool for their purpose, but then also being aware of the weaknesses of that tool. Okay. So theme 3 is, how does AI work? And this is quite a complicated one, especially when you are teaching to non-technical students or students from a non-technical background. But basically how AI works, you've got all various competencies there. I'll just go on. So it's about understanding the inner workings and underlying processes for AI tools. But as I mentioned before, these are often hidden, or what is known as black boxed. And they do this to increase the ease of use, but often it can hide the fact that it's AI. It's not always clear that it is AI, but also you don't know how it's coming up with the information and the outputs that it is. Some research has found that interaction with uncovered black boxes can contribute to a better understanding. But others have found that too much of this can be overwhelming. So we need to strike a balance when we're actually teaching how does AI work and how do certain tools work. So I've got some teaching suggestions. So again, there we go, the recommendation to focus on higher level concepts. So don't go too deep and technical for non-technical subjects, because I think you'll just lose them. A simple explanation of large language models. For example, ChatGPT's large language model generates text based on patterns and probabilities learned from vast amounts of training data, creating human-like and contextually relevant responses. I think that's fairly clear and possibly would help someone understand what is a large language model and how ChatGPT uses it to work. Compare it to something relatable. So most people understand predictive text. So there's kind of that link there. Obviously, it's a lot more complicated than that, but it's it's kind of something that they understand that you can add on. And then there is a movement towards something called explainable AI, which is artificial intelligence that provides human understandable justification for their behavior. So I think this is the future really of, or hopefully of AI, where we, AI does what it does, but we get, we understand and it explains, and we can then make an informed decision based on that. I've just got a link there, so you'll be able to get it in the slides, to Google Labs, which shows Google's latest experimental products. So if students you might want to send them there to see how AI products are being developed and how they work. Okay, so theme 4 is how should AI be used? So this is the ethical side of AI and teaching it. So we can identify and describe they should be able to identify and describe different perspectives on key ethical issues, such as privacy, employment, misinformation, diversity, bias, transparency, etc. So several studies have been conducted on this and have found that students actually have many ethical concerns surrounding AI. So if we are going in teaching AI literacy, there may be actually some pushback from some students who don't want to engage with AI for various reasons, such as these. So we've got the potential effect on the job market that we're worried about, algorithmic bias and discrimination in AI, the trustworthiness and the spread of misinformation, hallucinations, such as fake references, privacy, lack of transparency, so the black boxing, inadvertently cheating or plagiarizing because they've used AI, the training of Gen AI on copyrighted material, which they might view as theft, the environmental impact, the potential for widening inequity and undermining critical thinking, and then the general dehumanizing of the educational experience. A lot of students want that in-person contact. They want to know that when they submit an essay, for example, that their tutor is reading it, they're not kind of putting it through AI. There's that. So bearing that in mind, we should encourage students to think critically and evaluate any AI outputs by asking them to, for example, you might ask them to find hallucinations in a reference list. So you might have a list of 10 references, 2 of them are hallucinations. You might give them the skills to of how they can search and find out if something is a hallucination or not. You should address student concerns around ethical issues and acknowledge them. And this is an interesting one. Some research found that most students are not familiar with their university's published AI guidelines, which is quite worrying. So one thing I tried is to actually put the guidelines into a Mentimeter quiz, so the university guidelines into a Mentimeter quiz, scenario-based, give them a scenario, and then it's obviously a quiz in a lecture theatre where they basically say true or false, and they're able to think critically about a real world scenario. So yeah, librarians can guide students in understanding the ethical use of AI in research, including citations and avoiding plagiarism. And I think it's also important that we explain to them that it's still possible to research without using AI. The old search strategies and techniques still apply and still work very well, and in a lot of cases much better. Okay, so the 5th theme of AI literacy is how do people perceive AI? And it's basically about making them understand that AI is programmable. They're not human, basically. They are just computers. So student perceptions of AI could be influenced by their subject area or their peer group. Many students may have politicized or sensationalized preconceptions of AI from the media, and they may attribute much more intelligence to certain systems than they actually possess. So there's something called the ELIZA effect, which is a misconception that occurs when a system uses simple techniques but produces effects that appear complex. And there is kind of a worry that a lot of AI tools are kind of doing that. They're doing something that's actually quite simple, but it kind of wows you. It's a bit of magic. Okay, so teaching suggestions. So we can try and make the AI literacy instruction culturally relevant to increase the learner interest. So that's kind of make it relevant to their subject area, for example, or current issues, anything in the news within their subject area. Yeah, address and use and expand on sensationalized preconceptions to kind of dispel the myths. Consider how to communicate AI concepts to learners without technical backgrounds. Well, I think we've sort of done that with the glossaries and etc. And then working with peers, so get them working in a workshop or in groups can help them discuss, and kind of the students can kind of help each other gain an understanding. So we've got, for example, you could do a workshop on prompt engineering, and this can help them understand the programmability because they're coming up with the prompts and they're seeing how different prompts work and the changes that they made, but also that they have control over the tool. It's about, I think that's the most important thing is basically giving the user the control over the AI tool. Okay. There we go. So that's the end really. So I was just wondering if anyone has any experience they'd like to share, or if there's anything that you've tried that you might like to try. Anyone got any questions?